For days, Australians have witnessed some of the bitterest and ugliest infighting seen in modern political times. Tomorrow morning, it may come to an end when Labour MPs vote on whether to oust Prime Minister Gillard or to reject Kevin Rudd's bid to reclaim the leadership. Political correspondent Richard Davies has been following today's events. Richard?
Well, Leilin, on the eve of the ballot, both sides are making their last-minute pleas, but it seems all the momentum is going Julia Gillard's way.
Hello, Melissa.
The hours to the ballot are counting down, and the counting seems to be favouring Julia Gillard.
I am very confident of the strong support of my colleagues.
If she needed any more support, she's received a musical dedication.
And darling, darling, stand by me.
The polls back Kevin Rudd, but it appears the majority of the caucus doesn't.
I'm perfectly relaxed in my soul.
He spent part of the morning at church. He has contemplated defeat.
If Julia is returned on Monday, then she will have my unequivocal support between now and the next election.
Her supporters say it's a simple choice.
Who has the character, who has the temperament and who has the courage to be Prime Minister of Australia?
Kevin Rudd's supporters are staying on message.
I see Kevin Rudd as our best chance of winning government, and I'm absolutely concerned with staying in government.
I believe he represents the best chance for Labor victory at the next election.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
They've issued this warning.
Anybody on a margin of less than 10% is going to lose their seat at the next election if we don't pull behind Kevin Rudd. We could lose 30 seats. That's how bad it is.
Plenty of mud still being thrown. Kevin Rudd's denied reports that a year ago he described Julia Gillard as a childless, atheist ex-communist.
Other people have said that about the Prime Minister. I've made a point of not focusing on anyone's religious beliefs or otherwise.
And there's anger at some of the attacks on Kevin Rudd.
People ought to have a look at themselves as a result of how some have presented themselves the last week. It's been a disgrace.
Anthony Albanese's tearful announcement yesterday that he's supporting Mr Rudd could sway a handful of wavering backbenchers.
He understands that Kevin Rudd has got a strong policy background, and he also knows that he's the most popular politician in Australia right now.
This is not about a celebrity poll, otherwise Kylie Minogue could end up being Prime Minister.
Another minister has declared he's prepared to quit the front bench.
If Mr Rudd were to prevail on Monday, I wouldn't seek to serve in his ministry, even if he chose to ask me.
Tony Abbott is looking beyond the ballot with this hospital pass to the independents.
You are responsible for this government. You ring the curtain down on this shambles by moving no confidence in this government this week.
The Liberal Party hasn't wasted any time resurrecting its Lemon campaign.
Who knows if Kevin O'Lemon is coming back? Maybe they'll stick with Julia. Or maybe someone else will get a turn.
Well, the coalition says Labor won't change its policies regardless of its leader, and it says that really is the main issue.
So, Richard, how are the numbers stacking up?
Well, Leilin, you'd have to say at this stage, Julia Gillard looks well ahead. She seems to have a vast majority of the votes in the caucus. 102 Labor MPs will vote tomorrow. It's thought that Julia Gillard has around 65 of those votes, or around about 2/3 of MPs. Kevin Rudd has about 32 votes, we think, or about 1/3 of the caucus. 5 MPs are thought to be undecided, but even with their support, Kevin Rudd would fall short. There's also been today a newspaper survey of Labor MPs in the party's 20 most marginal seats. It found that 15 of them plan to back Julia Gillard, which, if that is true, that would really undermine what Kevin Rudd's been talking about with his appeal to what he calls people power. Leilin.
And do you think there's a chance that MPs may vote differently from how they are declaring?
Well, anything's possible in politics, I guess. There is a secret ballot tomorrow, and I guess in theory that means that people could vote in a different way to the way that they've declared. They could defy their factional leaders, but I think it's very unlikely we're going to see many of them do that, and even if a handful did, it's not going to change the numbers to that extent that would hand Kevin Rudd power. I've spoken to a senior source within the Kevin Rudd's camp, and they're they're saying they're not expecting any more than about 35 votes. That is less than they were talking about last week, which was more in the order of the 40. So they are trying to lower expectations. Maybe they're expecting a few more. A senior source in the government has told me that they're not expecting anything different to what we've been saying, that around about 2/3 of the caucus will support Julia Gillard. They're not seeing any major change over this weekend, despite what Anthony Albanese said yesterday when he went in to support Kevin Rudd. And they are quite confident that tomorrow the Prime Minister will prevail. Lee Lynn.
Thank you, Richard. Richard Davis, our correspondent in Canberra, talking to us about today and tomorrow. And later, I'll talk to a constitutional expert on the implications of the outcome of tomorrow's caucus vote. The Labour caucus will meet at 10 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow, and we'll have live coverage of the result both here on SBS 1 and online.